Hello class. Today I have decided to make a review sheet for you that talks about adverb clauses, relative clauses, and noun clauses. As you can see at the top of the page, I have adverb clauses. Now an adverb clause is going to use adverbs like because, by the time, wherever, once, since, while, due to the fact, so that, and in order that. Now, most of the time you will combine an independent clause with an independent clause and add an adverb to make an adverb clause. So once again, most of the time, you will combine two independent clauses together, plus you will add an adverb to make your adverb clause. Here are two independent clauses. Harry Potter was made into a movie. Harry Potter is a popular book. I can combine these two clauses to make an adverb clause. Here's my example. Harry Potter was made into a movie because it is a popular book. Or, Harry Potter was made into a movie due to the fact that it is a popular book. Here I have two adverbs. Once, Harry Potter, the book, was made into a movie because it was popular. Sometimes an independent clause and a dependent clause are combined together by adding an adverb. For example, Harry Potter was made into a movie. And then I have a dependent clause, a popular book. I add them together to make Harry Potter was made into a movie because it is a popular book. Now, we are not going to have adverb phrases on the test, but some of you may want to know how to make this sentence into an adverb phrase. This is an adverb phrase. I've changed made into making. Making Harry Potter into a movie is due to the fact that it is a popular book. However, on the final exam, we are not going to have adverb phrases. So don't worry about that. Now let's talk about relative clauses. A relative clause is usually two independent clauses like J.K. Rowling is the author and she wrote Harry Potter. I can combine them together to make a relative clause. J.K. Rowling is the author who wrote Harry Potter. This is my relative clause. Who wrote Harry Potter? Well, J.K. Rowling did. So usually relative clauses will have one independent clause and dependent clause. That can also happen. Or we can also have two independent clauses like I have here. What's the difference between a relative clause and an adverb clause? An adverb clause has adverbs like these. A relative clause usually will not have an adverb. The verbs most common to relative clauses are going to be the to be verb and other action verbs. For example, if I want to make a relative clause that's like this, but in a different way, I could say this. The author who wrote Harry Potter is J.K. Rowling. Or, J.K. Rowling is the author who wrote Harry Potter. Both have the same meaning. So what I did is I combined Harry Potter is a book with J.K. Rowling is the author. And now I'm going to use that. Harry Potter is a book that J.K. Rowling wrote. Why did I use that? Because book is not a person. We do not use that with people. We use it with objects. So once again, Harry Potter is a book plus J.K. Rowling is the author. I can make a relative clause with the word that. Harry Potter is a book that J.K. Rowling wrote. Now let's talk about noun clauses. Now, some of you might say, how do I know if it is a noun clause or if it's a relative clause? Well, there are some ways to tell the difference, but right now, there's something very important that I want you to know. There are 3 types of noun clauses: that clauses, if and whether clauses, and clauses that start with WH words, like what, where, when, who, let's see, why, and also how. Now first, I just want to talk about that clauses. That clauses combine 2 statements. A statement can be either independent or dependent. Now there's something else that's very important that you need to know. In each of these clauses here, 1, 2, and 3, we have subtopics. We have subtopics underneath the 3 types. Again, we have subtopics underneath these 3 types here. Now, I only want to talk about the subtopics for that clauses. What are the subtopics? Objects of the verb, subjects, subject complements, adjective and noun complements. First, let's talk about the subtopic 1, objects of the verb. For example, we knew that we were going to win. That is serving, or it's representing the object of the verb. What's the verb? Knew. Now, sometimes that is going to be the subject, but in English, I could start a sentence with that, but most of the time you're not going to see this sentence. That you like jazz amazes me. We're not going to use this. You're going to see this instead. It amazes me that you like jazz music. So once again, when we say subject, it usually means that is going to start the sentence. But in the case of that clauses, this does not start the sentence. We're going to start the sentence with something like it. It amazes me that you like jazz. Now, it's important for you to understand that these 2 things, objects of the verb and subjects, have verbs that we use. So for subtopic 1 and subtopic 2, we're going to use verbs like this: believe, feel, know, think, learn, mean, realize. Here's a form of know right here. I also used amazes me, amazes, to amaze. We can add that, to amaze. A lot of these are stative verbs. Stative verbs. Once again, in subtopics 1 and 2, we are going to use these type of verbs most often. Let's talk about subject complements. This is subtopic 3. Subtopic 3 is subject complements. Subject complements use subjects like the problem, the belief, the fact, the hope, the idea, the thought, the truth. Once again, subject complements are going to start with these phrases: the problem, the belief, the fact, the hope, the idea, the thought, the truth. And these phrases are your subjects. The problem was that I didn't have time to help him. We can have all sorts of things here. The fact was I didn't have time to help him. Okay? The truth was that I didn't have time to help him. Okay? Now let's look at subtopic 4. Adjective and noun complements. In your book, it talks about adjective and noun complements, and that's on page 266. But we are only going to look at adjective complements because it's the most commonly used part of that clauses. So adjectives are what we're going to find in adjective complements. What are adjectives? Well, in this example, they're going to be feelings. Okay, here we go. Everyone was worried that the computers might go down. Worried is my adjective to describe how everyone is feeling. And here's my that clause right here. So worried is your adjective. It describes how the people felt. Now, you might ask me, adjective and noun complements are very similar to relative clauses. What's the difference? Well, in an adjective complement like this, in a noun clause, there is a main verb and an adjective. So do you see the main verb here? Was is my main verb. Worried is my adjective. Well, we don't always see this in relative clauses. That's the difference between an adjective and noun complement and a relative clause. Once again, in our noun clauses that involve this subtopic, we're going to have a main verb and an adjective. We don't always see this in relative clauses. Let's go back up to relative clauses. Here's a relative clause. Do you see an adjective here? No. I have a main verb. I have no adjective here. Here's a relative clause. Where's the adjective? There is no adjective. Now let's start to talk about types 2 and type 3 of noun clauses. This is if and whether and WH clauses. We have some rules. In noun clauses, we can't start a sentence with if. We start sentences with whether. Now, noun clauses are different than conditionals. Conditionals talk about a situation and a result. Noun clauses do not talk about a situation and a result. Okay? Here's a conditional from several weeks ago. He will pass the class if he studies for the test. Okay? This is a noun clause.